lot of money. Hello there, I'm Scotty. You're not. Goddamn, recording automatically. Welcome to ScottyTV, where we talk about TV shows, old and new. Had to mute what I was watching. Today we are talking about the Drew Carey Show. Yes, airing from 1996 to 2004. Was it 95, 2004? I don't know. On ABC. So I have a connection to this show. I am Drew Carey. No, I could make it the glasses. What? I could play a rebooted Drew Carey. I don't exactly have the hair. But, put me in a suit. What am I going to say? I've been a fan of Drew Carey since I was a teenager. It started with Whose Line Is It Anyway? The first season here. Yes, this is like Volume 2 case. But I wish it was the Volume 1 case because it was red. But I have both volumes in here. So it is the first season of the show. They have a best of DVD out there too. But big fan of Whose Line Is It Anyway? That's where I got it. I also used to watch the Drew Carey Show and it used to air reruns on TBS. I vaguely remember watching the finale on ABC back in 2004. And being very confused because, you know, I was watching reruns. You know, this is one of those shows that has been long missing from everything. They released a DVD of season 1 back in the mid to late 2000s when they started releasing these two shows on DVD, and then stopped. They didn't make any more, and apparently it's because of copyright stuff. There's still 4 episodes unaccounted for on the DVD set itself once it got released, I guess, last year. But they released it this year. They started airing the reruns on other channels last year. But I came upon it when I got my DVR for my Spectrum and an app. And I found Drew Carey Show. I'm like, oh, I'm going to start recording that. So that's how I was watching it at first. Even though I saw the complete series, box set, right there, at Walmart, I'm like, I'll get it. Eventually I did pull the trigger, but I was still watching it on there. And then there was problems. Oh, was there problems. The channel kept going out, in and out. And if I have to hear that stupid adult incontinence commercial about the adult diapers, and there's no leakage, one more time. It was always, they'd play the opening theme song and then they go to commercial and and there's no leakage. The commercial all the time. Eventually I said I can't do it anymore. The commercials are bugging me. The channel in and out was worse and no leakage. So I started watching the DVD and I started watching the DVDs. I started watching them around meal times, breakfast, lunch, dinner. I'm gonna have to replace that with something now, but like I was, you know, it was just breakfast and lunch, and then dinner became a thing. Like, what am I gonna put on to watch? I'll just put on Drew Carey. You know. So, yeah, that'll have to change now. I don't know what I'm gonna watch now. You know, if I continue this kind of way of doing things, I can get through a show easily, but while also doing my regular channel stuff. So there that goes. I still have to go back for Scrubs. I was in the beginning of season 4, I think, 3, 4, whatever it was. Anyway, so what is the Drew Carey Show? The Drew Carey Show was a vehicle for Drew Carey, where he played a fictionalized version of himself. Who is an everyman. He works at a department store, but on the management floor of a department store as head of talent relations or head of whatever it's called, head of personnel. wrestling, head of personnel. He's basically in charge of giving out jobs and helping them out, and that sort of thing, helping hire people and all that. And so his constant rival is that of Mimi Bobeck. Later, Mimi Bobeck Carey. No, they don't get married. She marries his brother, played by Kathy Green. No, Kathy Kinney. This is the rivalry. Although, at a certain point in the show, like after she marries his brother, it gets kind of old, where it's like, okay, why are they still... They keep this rivalry going where it's like, by the end of the show, though, it's like they have respect for each other, but because of all that history, they keep throwing barbs at each other just to get at each other, so, yeah, I guess, but they go through a lot from season 1 to season 9, and by season 9, you see there's something there between them where it's like, it's not exactly hatred anymore. I mean, by season 9, she's living in his house. We're going to talk about season 9 when we get to that, because that's a cluster of the season, let me tell you. And not quality-wise, just... Drew is accompanied by his 3 friends, Louis Kiniski, played by Ryan Stiles, who is a janitor at the fictional Drug Co., which is, for all I know, a front for secret government experiments, the way they talk about it. I'm a janitor, but none of the places I go are secret government conspiracies. Secret government experiments, as far as I know, I can legally tell you. But they found me. No. But yeah, he is usually the cynical one out of the group. Then there's Oswald Lee Harvey. Yes, you heard that right. That is his name. Oswald Harvey is his name. Yes, his name is it. Played by Dietrich Bader, who is the dumb one. I mean, both of them are stupid, but it's like he starts out as the stupid. They both started kind of stupid, but Oswald, by the end of it, by season 9, is undoubtedly the stupid one. Then there's Kate, played by Krista Miller, who's only in the first 7 seasons, and her accent is confusing. My theory is that, because she ends up on Scrubs, and she marries Bill Lawrence, excuse me. So I'm thinking that she was ready to leave. She was ready to jump onto that show, and so just like her exit from the show, we'll get to it a little bit later, very rushed. But Kate is Drew's best friend. They grew up together. All 4 of them grew up together, but she's his best friend. And throughout the series, she's the will they, won't they kind of thing that probably should have ended up with a yes at the end, but doesn't, for reasons. We'll get to Drew's relationships in a minute. That rounds out the season 1 cast. Well, there's one more character, Mr. Bell, the boss of Winford and Louder during season 1, voiced by Kevin Pollak, who doesn't appear until the first episode of season 2 where he's fired. Or the last episode of season 1 where he's fired, I think. He shows up. Because in season 2, he's replaced by Nigel Wick, played fantastically by Craig Ferguson, the Englishman boss of Winford Louder from seasons 2 to 7, who always gets joy in firing people, especially Johnson. And it's a running gag. He's always firing someone named Johnson. It might even be the same guy. I don't know. It even comes back in the second to last episode of the series where the guy who is putting Drew's name on the door spells it with 2 R's, and Mr. Wick fires him. Johnson, you're fired! Yeah. and that really takes care of the main players for this. We'll get to. There's another character to introduce later, but the sweet spot of the show, I believe, was seasons 2 through 6. I think those were the best seasons to me. I think that's when they cared the most. Season 7 felt like they were kind of just ghosting, and then seasons 8 and 9 had big change-ups, and they're not bad, but they are the least good of the season, of the series. Yeah. Relationships on the show are weird. Like, Drew is dating a girl. By the end of season 1, both Drew and Kate are dating someone. Drew is dating this woman whose name I do not remember. And Kate is dating Robert Tordy's character. And at the beginning of season 2, they both break up with Jay, that's his name, moving to Minnesota to own a Dairy Queen. And the only thing I asked was, well, what time of the year was it? Because if it's close to fall or winter, you ain't running a Dairy Queen, especially back then, because they closed during that time. But Culver stays open with ice cream all the time. And eventually, Drew and his girlfriend break up. Drew dates a bevy of people, including at one point Shirley Jones from the Partridge Family. And the reason they're bringing it up is that bugs me, because they make a big deal about how she's older than him, and they have a whole Christmas episode where her son, played by Danny Bonaducci, which is a nod to the Partridge Family, shows up and makes a deal about it. And then she's never seen again, and we never see them break up on screen and never bring it up otherwise. In fact, the most recurring love interest for Drew, Nikki Pfeiffer, played by Kate Walsh. I'll bring this up too because this one also infuriates me, because they took one look at the very lovely and gorgeous Kate Walsh and said, let's put her in a fat suit. Yeah. And that's one thing also, going back to watch this show. All the fat jokes at Drew's expense. Especially knowing now all that weight that he lost. It hits a little close to home. I mean, hello. But it just, when you think about that, all the fat jokes, and not just with people throwing fat jokes at him, Carey makes the fat jokes too, about how he's always got to have candy bars in his drawers. His desk drawers, you nasty. His desk drawers. And everything. Just, yeah. But the thing with Nikki is, they start dating and she finds out that, Drew finds out, what I'm trying to say, that she used to be fat and lost all that weight and doesn't want to go back to that, so she's nervous to date Drew. But they end up dating, and she ends up gaining all the weight and then leaves him when she sees that she's become really fat. She shows up a season or 2 later, now getting married to someone else, and she's lost all the weight. She then comes back again, having divorced this guy, and wants to get back with Drew. At this point, Drew marries both her and Kate, because by this point, they're at that part where they're kind of at each other too. I'm going to backtrack a little bit here. Kate and Oswald date during season 3 and almost get married. This is when Drew's also dating Nikki Pfeiffer. Nikki. They're also engaged to be married, but they all break it off around the same time. Nikki runs off, and Kate and Oswald decide not to get married because she takes off on him. Remember that? And they just sort of, Oswald brings it up a couple more times that you let them at the altar, but they sort of just become friends again. And then Drew and Kate end up getting together, and that doesn't work out because he wants to have kids and she doesn't. There's a pregnancy scare and she's, I don't want to have kids, and he does, so they break up. But then in the season 7 finale, I think it is, or season 7 premiere, or is it season 6 premiere? One of the two. He marries both women. Actually, the episode title's not on there. Never mind. I have to look at it. I don't have my TV up. They end up... He ends up married to both of them. But then they find out and they get really pissed. But it turns out that neither of those marriages were legal because he was still married to Mr. Wick, who he married to help Mr. Wick get his green card and stay in America. So, yeah. But it's from that point that Kate sort of changes in character. She's a little more distant from the gang and Drew. She sort of hates him. Her whole existence in season 7 really feels like she doesn't want to be there, and not just the character. It feels like Krista Miller doesn't want to be there either. There's just so much. She's so negative in her performance. I don't know if that was the thing, because after she leaves, except for once in episode 3, she's never mentioned again at all. Kind of weird, actually. Anyway, back to Nikki. Nikki shows up at the beginning of at the end of season 7, beginning of season 8, fat again, and wanting revenge on Drew. But then she ends up living in Drew's house until eventually she leaves. I guess the end of season 7 or something. No, this is season 8. I'm thinking of something else. Season 8. And this is where Kate shows up saying she's getting married and she's leaving to go with someone else, and Drew tries to stop her, but it doesn't work because the actress is leaving the show, so she's gone. That's not the only thing that changed. We're gonna come back to this season 8 in a little bit. Steve Carey, Drew's older brother, played by John Carroll Lynch, is introduced as a crossdresser. 90s. But there's one thing I think they did better with this than they would now, is that they just made him a man who likes to wear women's clothing. He's not gay. He doesn't want to be a woman. He's not trying to roll out the social justice warrior stuff of I represent them, they, them, or she, her. He's a man who likes to wear women's clothing, and that's all. He still loves women. He's still somewhat normal, because they kind of go away from that. They don't try to make a political statement about it. They don't try to push an agenda. It's just a man who likes to wear women's clothing, and what's wrong with that? I'll tell you what, nothing. Just likes to wear women's clothing, that's all. Then when she starts dating Mimi, that goes away. And Steve becomes more prominent until they do. So, eventually he gets Mimi pregnant. She gives birth to their child, King Gus. Yeah, I don't know. It's just Gus later. And then he cheats on Mimi. And he gets kicked out of the house. He spends most of season 7 trying to get back together with her. He does. And in season 8, well, I guess maybe season 8 he gets back, but I don't know. He's kind of sparingly throughout season 8. And then by season 9, he's just gone. He's left. He left them. Again, season 9, we'll talk about that. But, yeah. We have their parents, the Carey parents, played by Marion Ross, and some other guy whose name I did not look up to write down. I can't look it up now. But Marion Ross really is the star here. They even call her Mrs. C because Carey starts with a C. So, that works. The funny thing is, she's Mrs. C and he's Mr. Carey. And it's fun. Drew's dad dies beginning of season 9, and that's another issue. Not him dying, but we'll get to it. Season 9 is a clusterfuck. I told you that. Yeah. And I love when the parents show up. They're fun. They're funny as a couple. It works. Especially when you have Drew and Steve both there to kind of bounce off of it. It works. And you have Oswald. I always like when she greets in. Oh, Drew. Oh, Oswald. And Lewis. Yeah. So, are we all set? Oh, one thing they have throughout the show, uh, you know, when it was when it's hitting a stride, where there were two different kinds of episodes they'd like to play. One was the "What's Wrong with This" episodes they did for April Fools. They actually did a contest in which viewers had to find all the things that were wrong and send it into ABC. And they'd win a contest of a walk-on role on the show or something like that. And then the other ones were the live episodes, which was basically a Who's Line crossover with Drew Carey show, because cast members from the Who's Lines anyway, Brad Sherwood, who was a member of the cast there, would host, and there'd be a thing where they'd have a bell, and someone would say a line, and sometimes you hear the bell, they have to change the line, which is not a game they would do on Who's Line. It wouldn't be a thing until the green screen show. It may be in Provanza, but I don't think it would ever be on an actual Who's Line show. But it's called line change. You hear the bell, you get, or someone would say, change the line, and it would change, or change, you know, the whole thing. And it's hard when you have to make stuff up, you know, when you have to improv everything. But I think it's even harder when you have a certain set of lines that you have to practice over and over again, and someone says you have to change that line and come up with it on the spot. Another line you've written down, it's another line you have to come up on the spot and try to make it somewhat coherent with the plot. The problem is, I wish those episodes were more throwaway plots. Sometimes there'd be plots that connect to stuff, and then you're supposed to think that's canon. I don't know. That's the same thing for the What's Wrong with This episodes too. It's just like, can it be a less serious plot? I don't know, but it works. The theme song. The show goes through technically 3 different theme song changes. In the first season, it is Moon Over Parma, sung by Drew Carey in an animated form with his tie moving back and forth. For season 2 is the song 5 O'Clock World. It's a 5 o'clock world when the whistle blows. Yes. And then from season 3 on, it's the one you know. Cleveland Rocks, which I believe was also used for all seasons in syndication, but I could be wrong. But yeah, those are the 3 songs. And for seasons 8 and 9, they had different versions of all 3 theme songs that would rotate through each episode. It was really weird. It was. But what are you gonna do? It worked for what they were trying to do. So, before I get it, there's some other recurring characters I want to talk about. Larry Almada, played by, I know, Boris, no, not Boris, what's his name? Larry Almada, is his name? Ian Gomez. He's on the back of the Who's Line. Ian Gomez, or as you know, that bald guy from a lot of stuff. He's their co-worker at Winford Louder. At one point, he's sleeping with old lady Louder. And by the end of the show, he's with Mimi. It's a weird thing. And also by the end of the show, he's got this dating agency where he sets you up with women. Larry's one of the recurring characters that I really like. He's one that is there, disappears, then comes back, disappears again. I don't know. I'm assuming it's because of, I don't know, of other projects that they're doing. During the early seasons, there is a security guard named Chuck, played by Kelly Perrine, who's pretty funny and shows up here and there. At one point, there are 2 African-American neighbors that Drew has that show up and then just disappear. The guy shows up for a few more episodes after the woman does, but they just sort of disappear. Various love interests come and go. And even Colin Mockery has a running role that really is only in the live episodes as the character of Eugene. But, and hey, he's a gay character in the 90s, who knows. But, yeah. Anything else? Let's get to the later seasons. So, as mentioned, there was a big change between season 7 and 8. Kristen Miller left after the second episode of season 8, and eventually Steve would be phased out. By the time we get to season 9, he's left his family. We'll get there. Also changing is the Warsaw. The one consistent thing throughout all 9 seasons is the Warsaw Tavern, which is where everyone goes to drink. At one point, the gang does have their own beer company called Buzz Beer, which is owned by Drew, Oswald, Kate, and Lewis, until Mimi takes Kate's share. That was part of the change, that it really felt like they were trying to push Kate out. There's something was going on. It was really weird. Because it's one of those things where she bets it. I'm like, by the end of the episode, she's going to get it back. She doesn't, and it's really weird. And I started to realize, oh, something's going on with her. And then she leaves at the beginning of season 8. It's like, okay. And then Drew has a nightmare about her that he can't get out of. And he does get over it, but season 8 also introduces the character of Kelly Newmark, played by Cynthia Watros, who, stop me if you heard this before, is a old high school friend of Drew's, who he had a crush on. Why does that sound familiar? It's because they just took Kate, the character of Kate, and just gave it to a different actress and called it a different character. Although Kelly is characterized differently. She is differently. She's not as confident. And also, after a few seasons on the show, they just sort of categorized Kate as the group slut. For some reason. It came out of nowhere and they started doing that. And eventually she just started sort of throwing those jokes out. And like, okay, she's accepted it, I guess. But Kelly's different. Even though it's confusing at times, because at the beginning of season 8, they're like, oh, why don't you ask her out? It's like, well, I don't know. She's my best friend. I'm like, wait, what? This was even weird. Because, oh, she's my best friend. What if we don't get along? What if we end up breaking up and it doesn't work? And I'm like, yeah, like with Kate, and they never bring her up. Maybe that's when Nikki shows up, is at the end of season 8, actually. Now I'm thinking of it. No, because she's not there. She leaves at the end of season 8. I don't remember. No, it's not. It's got to be season 7, because 8. The end of season 8, Drew is going to marry this woman that he met online and went to New Orleans to meet. And they only knew each other for a couple of weeks, but they're getting married anyway. And then she leaves him. But another big change. Well, back to the Warsaw for a minute. They hang out there, they drink beer. And by the end of the series, Oswald is running it. Which, that's a risk, I guess. But, And they have a recurring character through all 9 seasons, Tim, who is the bartender at the Warsaw. Although he's credited for all 9 seasons, but I think he leaves after Oswald takes over, or I just not paying attention enough to see him. Kelly also starts working there at the beginning of season 8. But the big change is that by the end of... So, after Old Lady Louder is ousted at the end of season 3 or 4, new owners come in, and we have Mark Carey as Mr. Solinar, something like that. He's there for a little while, and then he's replaced with this British dude. Well, there's another person in between, and there's this British dude who has an American daughter. She was the redhead and white chicks. But anyway, and it's funny that she comes back for Drew's wedding at the end of season 8 to be like a bridesmaid or something. It was weird to see her come back. But anyway, beginning of season 8, the store goes under. Winfred Louder, gone. So, Drew, Mimi, and Mr. Wick end up working for the people who bought the building, the neverendingstore.com, which is a website that sells things online. Who would have thought that? It's funny because on the show they said that, oh, that would never work. Hello, Amazon, eBay. Yeah, it's kind of ahead of the curve here. In the 2000s, eBay was a thing, though, but not like it is now. Amazon was a thing back then. But it's ran by two brothers named Scott and Evan, played by Jonathan Mangum, who will go on to be on Who's Line, the new one, not with Drew, but he would be in other Drew's things like the Green Screen Show and Propaganda. And Kyle Howard, from the Paper Brigade, damn you. And also Caitlin Olsen from Always Sunny in Philadelphia plays a character here as well. And this whole work environment reminded me from the last season of Sabrina the Teenage Witch, where she roasted that newspaper. That's what it reminded me of. I don't know why. It just did. It just does. It kind of reminded me of that. And it works until season 9, where Evan leaves and it becomes a regular workspace again. Although they kind of stopped going to the workspace for a while, focus on the home life. But, yeah. We're not done with the changes. Right? So, yeah. And so season 8 is sort of different now. Things have changed. But season 9, oh boy, where do we get started? So season 9, so from what I could gather from looking at Wikipedia, by the time season 8 started, ABC could not give two shits about this show. They were throwing it out in the summer just to air the episodes. And no more so could you see that they could not give two shits about this show than the airing order of the episodes from season 9. They aired them not in order, but in such an order that if you try to watch this show in the order they put it out, I would hate to be one of those who tried to watch the show back then and didn't know this was out of order, being very confused. Because the first episode is technically supposed to be the 12th episode. You start watching it, and it's weird because Drew's mom is living in the house. So is Mimi. He's dating Kelly. Considering that the last episode of season 8 was Drew being left at the altar and dancing with Kelly, starting out with him dating Kelly. His mom is there, talking about how his dad died. Huh? Mimi is there. Steve is gone, and the house burned down. What the fuck is going on? Yeah, that's the first episode. Imagine putting that in a DVD and pressing play and being like, did I put the wrong disc in? I didn't. And I actually had to start watching the episodes on the Plex app because I needed to go. They have the correct order on Wikipedia, by the way, so look for that. Go in that correct order. The only one you're kind of going to be confused on is episode 2, because Kelly's already pregnant, but it does have flashbacks to the dad's funeral, which makes it important to be the next episode, because Drew's dad dies falling off the roof at the end of episode 1 of season 9. Although he's not actually dead, because you don't see him die, but apparently he did die from that. I guess maybe he died on the way to the hospital I don't know. But they have flashbacks to the funeral in episode 2, with a bald guy stand in for Steve because John Carroll Lynch had left the show. But we didn't know that yet. So, yeah, eventually we find out he left them, and we find out later that after the dad had died, he just lost confidence in being a dad or something like that, I don't know. And then Gus becomes a pyromaniac and burns down the house. So Mimi and Gus move into Drew's house. And then Drew finds out that Kelly is pregnant, tries to propose to her. She refuses to move in and ends up living in the garage that they are able to remodel somehow. Because she doesn't want to move in the house because there's too many people in the house. And then there's the in-laws, and and everything. Season 9 is a clusterfuck. You gotta watch to fully understand what's going on. You have to watch the episodes in the order on Wikipedia when it says the correct order. It's mostly this. It works. Even if one episode or two are out of place, I don't know. It works in ordering. It works in that order, I should say. So, yeah. And the finale. It's clear that Drew saw the writing on the wall and just said, whatever the last episode's supposed to be, we're going to make it a finale. It does not feel like one. Kelly gives birth, and they get married. The whole thing is that they want to get married so that the baby's not born out of wedlock. And I started to remember from when I first watched this back in the day. Because I watched the finale when it aired. I was like, oh, series finale, I got to see this. So I remember it. So I kind of remember it. They're trying to get a priest to marry them. They do, but it's very close. And the priest's like, you know what? I stopped the vending machine on my way up here. Well, if you knew they were trying to get married for the baby was born, why would you do that? So we'll just say that, I'll take back that time, but we'll just say that he's married in wedlock. Hey, we did it. There you go. And it ends with some clips and stuff. Kinda. Not really clips. They do a clip when he's playing pool in the rain, and that's the only time you see Kate here. Like, you get some callbacks for the wedding, like you see Oswald's mom, who was played by What's-Her-Face from Fog, and whatever John Carpenter movie back in the day. She was married to John Carpenter, I don't remember her name, but dark hair. Adrienne Barbeau, remembered it. And then the in-laws are there. Also, Kelly's mom is dating Lewis. That's a weird thing. I do like this. Where he's like, because you have Michael Gross, you know, the great Burt Gummer. His wife is doing Lewis. They're getting divorced, but like they did it in a bathroom. Like, oh, why don't I just do it in the bathroom with this one? And it's pointing at Oswald's mom, and Oswald goes, "Hey, that's my mom. You do her in the bed like everyone else." He means well. It all just kind of breaks down, and she goes into labor. Another recurring character is that of Bill Estes from I Still Wouldn't Know What You Did Last Summer. Bill Cobbs, rest in peace. He plays the bus driver in the last couple of seasons because Drew loses his car and never gets one. Hey, at least I admit he had a car and it doesn't just disappear like Drake's car from Drake and Josh. Yes, I'm still on that. But yes, and Mr. Wick has become a Scottish weatherman for a Christian weather station. And by the end of the show, Drew tries to have his own whim for louder, only for it to be taken underneath him by Mr. Wick. I didn't like that plot point at all. It's like, come on, this is this dream. If this is going to be the finale, let him get it. Don't say, oh, we're going back to the always like it was, and now he's stuck there. Oh, come on. There really is no wrap-up with the never-ending story. It's still in the same building, but not the floor that Whim for Louder was on anymore. Which is weird, because they still need a boardroom, right? They're just one floor. And they're still... I don't know. But yeah, if it's still a never-ending story, wouldn't it be like a... I don't know. But, yeah, overall, I enjoyed the show. It was fun to go back. I always find comfort in shows from the 90s or the 2000s. Back when you could watch the shows where the technology was different. Not like it is now. Modern shows are fine, but like, and it's not like, oh, like Stranger Things, we go back to the 80s. No. Shows that actually came out in those time periods. They feel, not 80s shows specifically, but 90s, 2000s, that kind of thing. The era I grew up in. And this reminds you of those times. I wouldn't say they're better times, but it reminds you of a time where everything was simpler, I guess. And so back then, they didn't have cell phones. Little Drew does have a cell phone by the end of it, little one. They often forget he has. For reasons, but, yeah. I enjoyed the show. So, what are your thoughts on the Drew Carey show? And we'll call so much like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'm Scotty, and I'll see you in the next one.